I have been off the last 4 days. So I finally had a chance to do some spring cleaning. I deep cleaned the whole house. Yes, this did take all 4 days. I did bathrooms, fans, oiled wood tables, opened and cleaned windows, everything. My husband sees I am off and I have had to serve him every meal since I am home. 90% of the time I don't mind. Yesterday I was tired and was making steaks for dinner, so I didn't feel like making a breakfast omelette too. He got upset and I ended up making both breakfast and dinner. Since I didn't want to fight, but he says I made a face. After dinner last night I packed up leftovers and made it clear that I would not be making anything tomorrow. Everyone agreed since I worked today. When he got off work this morning I served him something quick to eat. I have a hotel booked for this weekend for us. I was trying on clothing and packing. He asked to heat up his leftovers. I said, I told you yesterday I wasn't making anything today. He responded with, you're going to make a problem over heating something up on my birthday month. I responded with, I am tired, and explained yesterday you keep making problems with me over food. He turned it around and said, no, you're making the problems over food. You just don't want to serve me anything anymore. Cancel the reservation, I'm not going anywhere. Thanks for ruining my birthday month. Now I did heat the leftovers, which of course he refused to eat. And the reservation is too late to cancel, so now I'm out money too. TW possible infant death. My spouse is a very laxed person where, it's not a big deal, seems to constantly be their mentality. I am on the opposite spectrum where I overthink and freak out over everything. I realize that and I am working on it. However, sometimes I feel like my spouse uses the fact I overreact to just dismiss everything. Whereas they never admit they underreact to most situations. I think meeting in the middle would be a healthy balance. We just had a baby and I have always been very stringent on safe sleeping habits and just overall safety precautions that the CDC and pediatricians recommend. If the pediatrician and/or CDC don't warrant strong concern about it, I tend to say, hey, maybe I'm just being paranoid and should let this slide. My spouse has on multiple occasions left burp cloths in or on the crib. I have politely spoken to them about it and they say they'll try and do better. However, as it keeps happening, I have started to get angrier, and here's where I may be the asshole. I've taken to lecturing them and probably talking down to them, as to me this behavior is childish and could kill our child. My spouse leaves them on the changing table unmonitored for up to a minute to throw a diaper away. Our child is able to do full 360 turns in 30 seconds in their crib. I feel I was an asshole in the way I spoke to them, however I have tried talking nicely about it and nothing changes. I feel I can't spare my spouse's feelings at the safety of our child. Any advice on how we could work this out would also be appreciated. My spouse said what they did does not warrant the strong response I gave, which is making me feel like the asshole. Edit to add: our baby is 4 months old, sleeps 12 hours during the night and has no colic or fussiness, so neither of us is sleep deprived. Edit 2. The burp cloths are left in or on the edge of the crib while sleeping. My spouse leaves the room while the baby is on the changing table. My husband and I've been married for 6 years. At least 5 of those have been almost no contact with his mother. I don't know the whole story, but his dad passed away when he was young, and his mom remarried a man who was horribly abusive to him up until he moved out. He tried to tell his mother for years, but she just wouldn't believe it. It got to the point that for his own well-being he just couldn't be around her anymore. This week, after years of silence, she shows up at our doorstep. She said she'd tried to call, but we have her blocked, so obviously it didn't go through. She was in tears and started crying about how her husband had trashed her house and left her, and she realized her son was telling the truth, how she didn't have anyone, all that shit. She begged to talk to my husband. I said that she had some fucking balls coming to our house to cry after throwing her son to the side for a disgusting predator until that stopped working for her. I said she made her bed, now is the time to lay in it, and it wasn't going to be in my fucking house. She was almost hysterical when she left. Her coming to the door put my husband in a panic attack. He's been too depressed to get out of bed since. I really don't care for that woman, but when I replay it in my head I feel absolutely terrible. Berating someone in tears never feels good, and now I think I might have just made things worse. Should I have done something different? Was that a dick move? My parents are having people from their home country come for a visit. They have told me that for the 4 weeks that the guests are here I was to vacate my room and sleep in the basement on an inflatable mattress. I F26 have only been living with them because they insist. I have a job and have been working and saving money since I was 16. I didn't need their help to pay for college, and I pay them rent for my room as well as buying groceries and helping out around the house. I told them that if they wanted a guest room then O could move out. There are several condo developments in my area that have units ready for immediate possession, and I have almost enough to buy one outright. I have no debt thanks to living at home for the last 4 years. They say that I'm being ungrateful and argumentative. I just don't think it's very fair to kick me out of a room I pay for nearly a month. They didn't even offer me the choice not to pay for the month I don't have my room. I, 19F, would like to break into the acting industry. I'm studying business at uni in London and take acting classes on the side. All paid for by myself. My stepmom was laughing at me for taking the classes and paying for them and trying to get a kick out of my dad at my expense. I retaliated, saying she was just jealous because she got knocked up at 18 and couldn't do anything fun. This immediately wiped the smile off her face. My dad is trying to make me apologize, but I think it's what she gets for belittling my interests. AITA? I like to relax with THC. Lucky for me, it is legal where I live. I have small kids, so I keep my edibles in my room in my closet up high. Pun intended. My niece Lacey babysits for me all the time. She is a good girl and I like having her over to give her a break from her mom. My sister-in-law is a loving wife and mother, but her personal beliefs can be a little overwhelming. Last weekend Lacey was watching my kids and she had a craving for sweets. My kids told her where I keep my stash of candy, that I don't like to share. The poor dummy went and took some of my sour gummy edibles as well as some of my regular candy that I don't share with my stinking kids. When I got home, the kids were asleep and Lacey was on the couch staring at her phone and trying to use it as a TV remote. I called my brother and told him I would be late so Lacey would be spending the night. It isn't a problem with us and it isn't an uncommon situation. In the morning I had a talk with her about THC and how it wasn't the best idea to use it a lot when you are young. She asked a lot of questions and apologized for taking my candy without permission. Like I said, she is a good kid and her mom has drilled some weird beliefs into her. She told her mom what happened. Her mom lost it on me. How I'm a drug addict and I should be in jail. That I need to childproof my home if I'm going to have narcotics in my home. She is banning Lacey from babysitting for me. AITA? A few months ago, I, F20, decided I wanted to take up pole dancing. I told my roommates Amanda, F20, and Holly, F26, that I was thinking of getting one and installing it in the living room, and they said go ahead. Side note, we had no furniture at the time, so this pole was installed in an empty living room. A little while later, since nobody else was getting furniture, I got a couch off Facebook Marketplace. Holly also got a TV for the living room. Right after we got the TV, Holly demanded that we move the pole out of the back side of the living room so that the TV and couch could fit in the corner where the pole already is. I was confused by her request because the couch was already placed close to the center of the living room and there was an outlet available for the TV to go in front of the couch. I asked Holly why she wanted to move it into the corner, and she said because she wants a cozy little nook. I told her that the pole is quite difficult to move and install, and the pole being in its existing spot gives me enough room. The new spot she suggested would have me slightly in the way of the hallway, and I couldn't tell if there was a stud where she wants to move it to. Because of those reasons, I told Holly kindly that I wouldn't be moving the pole. And the couch can stay where it is on the other side of the living room. Partly because I own the couch, and since she simply asked me, I'm allowed to say no. She didn't respond well to this. She contacted our rental company and told them that we had an unauthorized stripper pole in our unit that no one agreed to. An administrator came to our unit and told me that the pole needed to be removed. I was obviously pissed she snitched on me, so I told Holly if she still wants her cozy little nook, she can get her own couch. I'm restricting her from using mine. AITA? Long-time lurker, first-time poster, and sorry for mistakes. English is not my native tongue, so I, 29F, have designed all the wedding dresses for my cousins, siblings, and aunts for the past decade. When my eldest sister, 35F, got engaged at 24, she asked me to design her dress since I'm passionate about design and she always loved my style. Her dress was a knockout. Everyone loved it, and ever since, whenever one of our relatives announces their engagement, they ask if I can design their dress for them. I've always said yes because I absolutely love doing it, just so much fun. On to the issue. My cousin, 23F, is getting married next February and called me up to see when we could meet so she could share her ideas for her dress and I can start designing it. I do not like this cousin at all. Her parents spoiled her beyond rotten. I decided to still meet with her though and see if anything has changed since she's now an adult. She immediately shows me some photos of wedding dresses by Sarah Burton and tells me she wants something exactly like the pictures. I try to suggest a change in neckline or color and she shuts it down and tells me she wants exactly that. I told her I would not be making her dress as I love designing clothes that embody their wearer and suit them, not rip off others' designers so she can look fancy in a knockoff. Some of my family and especially her and her parents are beyond upset and have been blowing up my phone because of broken tradition and my baby cousin's heart because she's been looking forward to having me make her wedding dress for years now. I feel kinda bad, but at the same time she's taking the fun and bonding out of designing a wedding dress. I, 17F, bought a champagne-colored grad dress. I go to a small school, so high school grad and prom are the same night, same dance event. So this is a formal prom dress. A couple from my grade just got engaged and announced they're going to get married the weekend after graduation. The problem is, the bride-to-be is planning to wear white to prom and asked that I get a new dress because mine is too bridal and would take away attention from her. I told her no, and her friends are being really mean and hostile towards me. AITA? It would be timely and costly to sell mine and buy a new dress, and I really love the one I bought. Edit. Thank you so much everyone. I'm reading all of your comments. I feel like less of a bad guy now. I, 20F, have an older sister, Jen 28F, and a younger sister, Chloe 17F. Jen made our lives a living hell. She was rude, reckless, a liar, a thief, everything. She refused to go to therapy and fought our mom every step of the way. None of us could have nice things because Jen would ruin them or the moment. She got into a screaming match with Chloe when she was 11 and Jen was 22. There's so much more she's done, but it's very personal. She was a bad person. Full stop. When she was 24, she met her current boyfriend who is a literal godsend. Jen finally went to therapy, got a degree and has a job. She's not perfect, but I can acknowledge the effort, as much as I dislike her. Over the past few months, she's been making an effort to reconnect with the family. Chloe is full NC, but me and Mum have been seeing her. I feel like she's been lying to her therapist because she's been told she was the scapegoat. I was the invisible child and Chloe was the golden child. This couldn't be further from the truth. I will admit, at the height of Jen's spiral, Mum did assume everything bad was caused by Jen, but that was because it had been years of the same destructive pattern of behavior. Like, yes Jen, you're an alcoholic. Of course she's going to assume it was you who stole her booze. Or assuming she got fired from her job due to her attitude, which is why she got fired from every job beforehand. Or assuming she was being brought home by the police because she regularly breaks the law. This was never Mum being malicious, but when that's what you've come to expect over nearly 10 years, you're going to make a snap judgment. Jen and her fiancé, Luke, met with me to have coffee and she brought this up and I'll admit, I laughed in her face. She asked what was wrong and I said, scapegoat. Seriously? Jen, I'm glad you're getting better, but you were a piece of shit growing up. She got really upset and said she was trying to reach out. I said I appreciated it, but she has to acknowledge how much hurt she caused everyone. She ended up storming out and sent me a text saying she's not going to be disrespected like that and that it took her years to realize the family's dynamic. AITA? Edit. Some people have asked me how I know Jen is lying, why I was so dismissive of her. Here's why her assessment of the siblings' dynamic, golden, invisible and scapegoat child, do not line up at all. I am apparently the invisible child, which could not be further from the truth. The same goes with Chloe, who Jen labeled the golden child. I'm looking at examples, traits of all three syndromes, and none of them line up. I also want to make it clear that Jen assigned these labels to us, not her therapist. I've learned that respectable therapists don't use terms like these, so my best guess is Jen has pulled this out her ass whilst we were meeting, or her therapist reinforced it. Either way, Jen came up with this alignment, which makes me skeptical of her. My brother and my future Sil will have a destination wedding in the Philippines. And they wanted us to fly in 2 days prior to their wedding day. However, they're not paying for any of our flights, hotel, food and etc. My girlfriend grew up in the Philippines and moved to the USA at 13, she's 27 now, but haven't visited her home country at all. She has told me she wanted to visit the country to pay respects to her late grandparents and to see the beaches again. Well, since we're there, we plan to extend our stay for another week or two after my brother's wedding. And during that time, I plan to pop the question. We've talked about marriage, and she gave me the okay sign to propose. I was dropping off some stuff to my brother and future Sil, and my brother joked about me getting married. I then mentioned to him that I plan to propose in the Philippines. I explained that we're extending our stay in the country and staying at a different island after the reception. My brother was thrilled, and promised to not let the beans spill. However, my future Sil overheard the conversation and screamed at me to not do that. That the trip to the Philippines was all about their wedding, and I will be a major asshole if I proposed. My brother chimed and said I won't be an asshole, and it's not like I'm proposing at their wedding reception. And might as well make use of the travel. FSIL said that it would be taking away the attention from their wedding. Edit. FSIL apologized for what she said and said it's okay as long as I promise not to do it during the reception or wedding. Also, don't worry about my brother too much. They've been together for 10 years, and he knows what he tolerates and don't. He said he's happy. I see him happy. My FSIL can be a bit too much because she makes everything dramatic in her head. She's gotten a lot better as the years go by and actually knows how to apologize. I'm 5 months pregnant and told my family a few weeks ago. My sister wasn't happy for me and told me she was concerned about my geriatric pregnancy. I told her I'm under 40, and it isn't a geriatric pregnancy, and that I didn't need her concern, because my OBG and I had it covered. She still wasn't happy for me, but it is what it is. At Easter dinner, she again referred to my pregnancy as geriatric when talking to the family, and I again corrected her. She said, "Sorry, but if you are over 35, it's geriatric." Other people weighed in, mostly disagreeing with her. She pulled up an article on her phone saying 35 and over is a geriatric pregnancy. My aunt laughed and said that is idiotic. She said at this rate everyone will be either too young or too old to have children, since 20s is too young and 30s is too old. My sister said that she's using the scientifically accurate term, and it isn't her fault if it upsets me. I said, well, you can fuck off with your scientifically accurate term, because we all know you are just trying to make me feel bad. Someone changed the topic, but she didn't talk to me the rest of that Sunday. The next couple days, she sent me several links to articles about geriatric pregnancies, so I blocked her. My mom called me this morning and asked if I blocked my sister. I said I did temporarily, because she was spamming me. My mom said, grow up and make nice with your sister. What you did, using profanity on a holy day, was just as bad. You're going to be a mother, act like one. Was I the asshole, and do I owe my sister an apology? My husband and I have 3 children, a 16-year-old son, and 2 daughters 13 and 10. Our son got a part-time job as a lifeguard at a pool back in March. We live in South Florida, so the pools are open pretty much always. It was a good job for him. He liked it and was happy to have the money. The issue was his boss was an ass about giving time off. Our family takes a yearly vacation to this little beach house we rent for a year. We've done this since the year I was pregnant with my son. Of course, the kids all love it and look forward to it. Well, my son told his boss about the week when he signed up, but because that was only 6 weeks after he started there, he denied it. We made it clear he was still going. It's just a part-time job and there are a million of those. He protested, but we made him go, and his boss fired him. He was furious the entire time. He refused to do any family stuff or listen to us, so he was grounded when he got back. It's not that we don't trust him to stay home alone or anything like that. We just don't want him to prioritize work over family, especially some weekend job. He found a job at another pool 2 weeks later, so it's not like this impacted him in any way, but he still holds a grudge about it. He claims we didn't respect his choices, and he's right. We don't respect him trying to choose his job over family time, though we don't hold it against him since he's just a teen. This story happened almost a year back, and when I told my friends about this, they said I should post it here because they were split 50-50. So I-19M moved out of my parents' house about a year ago. There was nothing wrong in my life. I had a good upbringing. I loved being home. I had a lot of friends and my parents were loving. Or so I thought. Anyways, I was going to have a big 18th birthday as it is the legal age where I stay, Australia, and means you go from boy to man. Child to adult. I had a venue rented out and I had family and friends coming from all over to celebrate with me. We had a blast that night. I had my first drink and almost made it my last. I don't remember anything from that night, but from the photos I seen, it looked like I had a good night, so I was happy. A few days after that night, my parents sat me down to have a talk. They told me that I'm a man now and that I've been working a lot of hours and yet they haven't received anything. They told me that as soon as I started working, they expected me to help pay rent. Obviously, I didn't know any of that because I didn't get told. They told me that I should have known better, but now that I'm 18, they expect me to help me with rent. Honestly, I didn't mind helping them if they asked. I was 16 when I got my first job at McDonald's and am now working in construction. But they made it seem like I was in the wrong for not giving them money. And I get where they are coming from, but from a young boy's perspective, all I saw was green. All I saw was a triple-digit paycheck that I wanted to spend straight away. Anyways, I told them I'd start helping them from now on, but it wasn't good enough for them. They told me that I had to pay them back all the money that I should have given them when I first started working, which was almost $10,000. I said no flat out and they got mad. They told me that either I pay rent and pay them back what they are owed or I move out and find my own place. So that's what I did. I moved out a few days after to my friend's house for a bit, until I found my own apartment and have been living here for about 8 to 10 months. As soon as I moved out, I got bombarded with calls and texts saying that I disrespected by not paying them what they owe and making it harder for them to live now that they don't have someone washing or doing their laundry, taking out their rubbish and all those little stuff. They are both in their early 40s and more than capable of doing it. My friends asked me why I never introduced them to my parents and told them what I've told you. Some of them already hated my parents and some of them said that it was my duty as their son. I honestly didn't know I had to give them money or help out. I would have if they asked, but I feel like they just disrespected and tried to gaslight me into giving them money. I just need to know if AITA or not edit. A lot of people have asked me what my cultural background is and if it has something to do with my situation. My mother is from Chile and my dad is Samoa. As I know of, both cultures do expect help, but mostly in the form of chores and keeping the house clean. It isn't until you're 18 and still living there that you are expected to pay rent. I do have siblings and they had jobs before they were 18 too. They were never made to pay rent before they were 18, nor did my parents ask for backdated rent. Just wanted to clear up the air with some frequently asked questions. Edit 2. As some of you pointed out, it is to my better judgment that I should have helped out without having to be told. I will take that as a fault of mine. But what I won't accept and can now clearly see that backdating rent to a minor, which is already bad in itself, will never be acceptable, and I stand firm on my decision of not paying and moving out. I do, however, have a family dinner in a few days with my parents and siblings, so if anyone wants an update after that, then I'll be happy to make one. Thank you all for the help and support. It makes me happy knowing that I made the right choice and to have unbiased opinions on this matter. Less than 3. Okay, so I, 22F, and my best friend, 21F, have been best friends since kindergarten, nearly 2 decades. For the entirety of our friendship, we've had sleepovers, and when we have sleepovers, we've always slept in the same bed. That's simply a staple of our sleepovers. It's not a sleepover if we don't. We're both night owls, and even once we're done with our activities for the night and lay down for sleep, we'll talk in the dark until we pass out. Now, here's a speed bump I've never thought of. My boyfriend just moved in with me fairly recently, and my best friend and I have arranged a sleepover. I casually say to my boyfriend, "Hey, best friend is coming over, so would you be alright if we took the bed and you sleep in the living room?" He was shocked. He says, "Best friend can sleep in the living room and we sleep in our bed?" The fact that he wasn't cool with sleeping in the living room didn't really shock me, so I say, "Okay, then, best friend, and I will just sleep in the living room and you can have the bed." He doesn't like that either. He is dead set on the idea that we sleep together and guests sleep separately. But she's my best friend. This has been the routine for years, and I don't really view it as that big of a deal. Even when I had a fight with my mother when I was 19 and asked if I could stay at her place, she let her boyfriend take their bed and she slept on the tiny ass couch in the living room with me. I would just feel bizarre being like, "Okay, good night," and leaving her in the living room. I can't describe it, it's just weird. Thoughts? AITA? Genuinely wish I wasn't having to deal with this idiocy right now, but my friend, Emily, is getting other people involved. We are both 18F in our last year of 6th form. I'm Muslim and observing Ramadan. Every year I'm allowed to invite some of my friends over for iftar, the meal at sunset, and we always have fun. I usually mostly invite my other Muslim friends. This year I decided to invite everyone on Monday evening. It's still Easter break, and some of my other friends, including Emily, had expressed that they wanted to join the iftar too, so I invited them. I prepped the non-Muslim friends about what to expect at our iftar, including that we would go to pray shortly after sunset and would then have the main meal. I told them that it's disrespectful to walk in front of someone praying and to disturb us, and that it can even break our prayer and we would have to start again. Okay, so Monday evening comes. We have some snacks and the Muslims go to pray. According to my other friends, Emily said she was going to the loo, which is next to the prayer room. What I know is that suddenly the prayer room door opened, there was loud music, and she started dancing in front of the room. I left my prayer, called her a cab, and admittedly yelled at her, calling her disrespectful and to leave my house and get out. My parents are furious at me because of her actions. Emily thinks I've overreacted to a prank. She even had her parents call me and berate me, and she's telling all the people that weren't at the iftar that I threw her out of my house over a joke. Everyone who was there is with me, but our other friends have taken her side. I, M20, was shopping at the local mall with my girlfriend, F20, and she decided she wants to go to Victoria's Secret. For those of you who don't know, that's a women's underwear store. When my girlfriend went in, I just stayed outside of the store and sat on a bench. She was confused and came back to me and asked why I didn't come with her. I told her because it's a women's underwear store, I don't want to go inside. She got kind of mad and told me that nobody cares, so just come. I refused because I feel weird going into a store like that and don't want to make the women there feel uncomfortable. My girlfriend got upset and decided to end the day and go home. She said I ruined the day by not going into a freaking store. I, 51M, have been married to my wife Diana, 49F, for 25 years, and we have 3 kids, Johnny, 24M, Sally, 22F, and Hank, 17M. Sally has decided to drop out of college with 1 year left. Both Diana and I were shocked when she told us, since she's been obsessed with her field of study, biology and ecology, since she was 12. We asked her why, and she said that her and her friend were going to start up an online business and she doesn't feel that she needs the degree anymore. I will admit that I was pissed since I paid for most of her college and she only had 1 year left. If she were a first or second year, I would have understood, but the finish line is literally just around the corner for her. She asked if I would give her her last tuition payment as an investment. Important to note here is that my wife and I have been putting aside money for college for our kids since we decided to have them and made sure they knew that we'd help them pay their way through college. I told her flat out no, that money was for college and that's what the agreement was for when she got into college. I do not support this decision and I will not let her throw away the past 3 years for something like this. My wife agrees with me on this and has been trying to persuade Sally to change her mind for the past few weeks. Sally thinks that we're being unfair and that we're reneging on our promise, and we're assholes for not supporting her. Are we? I lost my wife unexpectedly, and it has been one of the most difficult times in my life. She left me with $200,000 in life insurance, and I used $20,000 of it to cover the funeral expenses. Now, my wife's family is demanding a large portion of the remaining life insurance money. Her parents want to use it to rebuild their home in Florida that was destroyed in a recent hurricane. The thing is, they didn't have insurance, and I don't think it's fair for me to cover their losses with the money that my wife left me. My wife's brother also wants a portion of the money to pay for his college tuition. While I sympathize with his situation, I don't think it's my responsibility to fund his education. My wife left this money to me for a reason, and it's up to me to decide how to use it. When I told my wife's family that I couldn't give them the money they were asking for, they accused me of being selfish and not caring about their situation. They said that my wife would have wanted them to have the money and that I was going against her wishes. I feel terrible for my wife's family, but I also have my own financial responsibilities. I have bills to pay, and I want to make sure that I can take care of myself in the future. I don't want to put myself in a difficult financial situation by giving away a large portion of the life insurance money. This is an opportunity for me to pay off my debts and buy the dream home me and my wife always wanted. Maybe I'm being selfish, but I feel like I am not in the wrong. Me and my wife never really discussed what to do with life insurance money other than the occasional joke of buying the dream home we want or a starter one. I miss her so terribly. Am I the asshole for refusing to give my wife's family a large portion of her life insurance money? I, 27M, was at a backyard cookout with some friends and coworkers. So the ages were late 20s to early 40s. It was a family-friendly event, so people brought their kids. They were playing in the yard while most of the adults hung out on the backyard deck. And like always, the parents saw other adults in the area and decided to just walk away and go inside. I don't know why this is a thing a lot of parents tend to do. Parents, why do you just walk away at outings and expect other people to watch your kids? I don't get it. I could see if it is your immediate family, but even then I would warn someone that I was not going to be watching for the safety of my kids. And #X200B, it was near the end of the night, so some people were gone. It was also getting dark and colder, so people were inside. The kids were still running around the playing outside. I decided to go home. I went inside and said goodbye to the host. Then I got in my car out front and was on my phone for a minute, and someone angrily walked up and asked me why I left the backyard. They said I was back there and they were counting on me to watch the kids. Note that this was never said to me. They just went inside and said nothing. I was on the deck and at no point in the night was I ever paying attention to the kids. Nothing dangerous happened to the kids. The parent just saw me walking to my car and freaked out. I told her it's not my job to watch your kids, but I probably would have stuck around if I was asked. I was just sitting on the deck drinking beer and minding my own business. I had already been going back and forth from outside to socialize the whole night like everyone else. Not sure why I was the one singled out. There were times when another person happened to be outside and I was inside. Did they assume we were taking shifts? I don't get the mentality of parents, but maybe I'm the asshole here. And #X200B, also want to note that the backyard is not fenced off. She brought that up a lot and I just retorted with even more reason to stay with your kids. The backyard was one of those open ones that opens into the forest. And #X200B, before this gets out of hand. I did not drive drunk. I had a single drink and was not drunk or even somewhat tipsy. And #X200B, I don't think it's clear, so I will clarify. I had no knowledge of being on kid duty. The backyard is large and open and led into the forest. I was on the small deck by the house. At no point in the night was I watching or listening to for kids. The whole night I was periodically going inside and outside freely. Never considered kids because I assumed the responsible parents were keeping an eye out. I, 25M, am around 6 feet 5 or 196 centimeters, but my legs are long. Normally I purchase economy plane seats because I have no issue being uncomfortable for a while, especially for shorter flights. I should mention that I take care to never intrude on other people's space around me, although occasionally with another tall person with wide shoulders it can be tight. Last week, I was on a 4-hour international flight with my knees crammed into the seat in front of me. The passenger directly in front of me tried to recline, but realized that my knees were preventing her from doing so. She turned around, gave me a dirty look, and attempted to recline again with more force. I was a little annoyed, but apologized and told her I could not move my legs out of the way without encroaching on the spaces beside me, i.e., moving my legs to the side into other people's spaces, freeing up space for her. She accused me of doing this on purpose just because I wanted more room for myself, calling me an asshole and saying that if I could not fit into a normal economy plane seat that I should pay extra for an emergency exit seat so that people around me can have more free space. If I'm honest, I feel that people who recline their seats in economy are annoying and inconsiderate, so I didn't exactly bend over backwards to accommodate for her. For more context, no, I did not check to see if this flight in particular had extra emergency exit seats. Like I said, usually I do not feel the need. I do not often run into issues with seats beside me, although this issue with people in front of me not being able to recline has occurred before, though not always, and has earned me some dirty looks from those in front of me in the past. So, am I the asshole? Should I pay extra for seats with more leg room so that people in front of me can recline even though this is not always a problem? Edit. Wow, this was controversial. Some people think it's unacceptable to recline at all and others think it's a basic right. I will keep this in mind on future flights, smiley face. So this guy that I hang out with has almost the exact same wallet as I do. Size, color, stitching, just the texture of our wallets is slightly different. So anyways, we were hanging with some friends and decided to call it a night. While I was grabbing my stuff to leave, I grabbed his wallet by mistake. I'd already thrown my own wallet in my gym bag I kept with a change of clothes because I go over straight after work. I got all the way home without realizing. I live 20 minutes away and it was raining at 11 o'clock at night. So I get a phone call maybe 5 minutes after I get home. Hey man, do you have my wallet? Check my pocket and sure enough it's there. Tell him I am sorry I have it. Well, I need you to drive it back to me. He doesn't know this, but I have to be at work at 8 in the morning and leave at 12 the next morning, but I didn't say this. I just asked him if I can bring it to him early tomorrow. I know I messed up. No bud, you messed up. I work early in the morning and I want to go out so I need my wallet. You've got to bring it to me, you messed up. You've got to make it right. Dude, it's raining and late and I don't care, man. That's my property. Well, of course, but we're friends and you should be able to trust me. That's not the issue. That's my property and you can't keep it. If you don't bring me my wallet, you're no longer allowed at my house. Oh. Well, I guess I'm no longer allowed at your house and you can come get your wallet tonight if you really want to go out so badly this late. Otherwise, you can wait till the morning before I go to work. And he decided to come get it. I ended up giving him $20 as well since he drove out. And I guess we aren't friends anymore. Am I the asshole? Edit. Someone said to edit the post and talk about the visual impairment of the rain. It was hard to see at points in time. I don't know what you want me to say. It's Florida, April, and if you live in Florida you know chaotic the weather can be here. Sunny one spot, pouring the next, a drizzle here, and more pouring. So like that, except dark, I guess. Also, if you say he could have gotten hurt coming to get his wallet in the rain but call me an aw for not wanting to do the same to either of us, then you're kinda the aw. My sister, after years of trying to have children, got pregnant with my niece. When she told us the name, I explained in the best way that the name she chose was very common for the animal, even more simplified as she wanted. Normally this is a nickname. An example with an American name. She wanted to call her daughter Bella, just Bella, and in my country Bella would be extremely common for a pet. She said I was anticipating the worst and wouldn't change my mind. I gave up, but she was warned. Recently, my fiancé was asking for a dog and I decided to adopt one. My fiancé always wanted to have a dog called Bella, tribute to her childhood dog, and I even commented about it being the same name as my niece, 2F, but she said that she always wanted to name one of her pets even before my sister get pregnant. Since she owns it, I didn't want to contest. We currently don't live together, but we constantly stay at each other's houses and Bella comes with her all the time. This weekend was my son's birthday and there was a party at the house, so all my siblings, parents, in-laws and my fiancé came, including Bella, both of them. No one in my family had met her yet, not even a week after we adopted, and we introduced her. My sister became quiet. My brothers made a joke with the same names. The mood softened after a while, but when I was alone with my sister, she started saying that I was petty in choosing the same name as my niece for my dog and caused her unnecessary discomfort, since I could choose any other name. I explained by saying that it wasn't me who chose it, but my bride, right after that the reason for that name. She even said that we could have chosen another name out of respect for her and her niece. I ran out of patience and ended up saying in a harsh way, she was already yelling at me and I hate being shouted in my ear, that if she didn't want to go through that kind of discomfort, she shouldn't put one of the most common names for a pet and that there's going to be a dog by that name on every corner. She knew it and she put it anyway, so she made her bed by naming her. She left early and we are not on good terms. My parents are begging to change the name. But it's not my dog and my fiancé won't budget, telling that she always said that Bella will be the name of her first pet to everyone. AITA? Extra. I didn't choose the name. If I had, I wouldn't. I let them both know about the situation, like when I said about the name with my sister. In our conversation I said, my fiancé intends to name her pet that way. Would you feel comfortable with that, for example? And warned my fiancé about possibly causing a fight. They are adults capable of making their own decisions and both knew about the possibility of that. Yes, I regret being harsh, but I was really stressed with screaming in my ear. #extra. The name is Mel, the equivalent of honey in English, a nickname for Melissa mostly. In Brazil, at least, Mel is one of the most, if not the most, used for pet. I only know my niece with this name, but I know 10 dogs named Mel. My 23M girlfriend, 21F, and I have been together for a year and a half. Her family is super sweet and I get along great with them. Now my GF's dad is pretty well off. Every time I've gone out to dinner with her family he always foots the bill. Her family has been great to me. They always welcome me in their house. I went on a vacation with them back in the winter. Her parents paid for our hotel for the entire week. Her dad gave her money for food, granted it was for her, her brother and myself. I also only paid for half of my flight because my GF offered to pay for the other half. The only thing I really had to pay for is food a couple of days out of the trip, which my GF pitched in and helped with too. This past weekend my GF, myself, her younger brother, and her dad went out for brunch. I was spending the weekend with her anyway, so she invited me to join them. Before we left, her and I were talking and she mentioned how maybe I should offer to pay for brunch, as in for all 4 of us. She assured me that her dad would 1000% refuse to let me pay, but he would probably really appreciate and respect me for offering. Now, here's where I may sound like an aw, but I honestly laughed at her suggesting this. I told her I would offer to cover her and my portion of the bill, but to expect me to offer to cover the entire bill is obscured. Sure, I work a full-time job and all of that, but I have my own bills and stuff to worry about too, and she wants me to offer to pay for a $150-ish brunch? She told me that if her dad accepted, which she could 100% guarantee that he wouldn't, that she would send me half for the bill. I continued to laugh and told her I'm not doing that, I'll offer to pay for our half and that's it. I asked her if the roles were reversed if she would offer to pay for the bill for my family. 8 of us in total including my GF. She said that's completely different. That's 8 people, not 4. We both have very different upbringings, in terms of the situation I mentioned about paying the bill. She grew up with a decently well-off family where they would constantly argue on who would pay the bill, because everyone in her family would always offer out of courtesy. I grew up very differently as I come from a family that was not financially well off. If someone offered to foot the bill, you'd just sit back and let them do it. When we went to brunch, I offered to cover both her and my portion of the bill. Her dad immediately refused and covered the whole bill. She gave me a, "I told you so" look. She thinks I was in awe for how I reacted to the situation, and says I should have trusted her. She told me she needs some space because my reaction to the whole situation is kind of a turn-off to her and she needs to think about things. AITA? So, I get along with my mill most of the time, but sometimes me and her clash. The only relevant time we've had issues was a few years ago when we were on a family vacation and we got into a massive fight. The long and short of it was I ended up missing an important family dinner at the restaurant my mill and Phil met at. Usually, when I'm on vacation, I don't like to schedule stuff out and just explore and have fun. So I got distracted and missed dinner. Last week, I learned that my mill and all my sills are going on a trip to California this summer. Apparently, they planned this since last year and I was specifically left out of all the planning. My sill said that the reason my mill chose not to invite me was because of the fight we had about that dinner years ago. I'm the kind of person who likes to deal with things head on. No petty bullshit, so I called my mill up last night. She at first said it was not personal. That she wanted to plan a bunch of activities over the week in Cali and knew I was not the one for long planned itineraries. I said that was crap because I could come and still hang out with them at the beach and hotel while going to the planned stuff I choose. She then said she was not going to pay for a flight and hotel for me just for me to choose to stand up to everyone. Things got heated really quickly and she ended up telling me that she swore to herself never to pay for another of my trips after running her anniversary trip like I did just because I'm selfish and can't bother to do things other people want to do. This was complete bullshit and I called her out on it. We ended up fighting and I hung up. I texted all my sills telling them I'm completely disgusted they all would leave me out of this just because Mill has a petty grudge against me and cannot stop being a control freak for 5 seconds. Today I woke up to text after text telling me to grow up and that she was not the only one who didn't want me there. My husband supports me 100%, but apparently, he got chewed out by Mill today and he said now he's staying out of it. So now I'm starting to wonder if calling her out like this was too far and that I should have been the bigger person, IDK though. So this happened while me and my twin brother were on holiday in an all-inclusive hotel last year. We are both 23. We are both semi-professional table tennis players. Not good enough to make it a full-time career, but we do compete in national competitions. We purposefully picked a hotel which had a table tennis table so we could continue practicing to keep sharp while we was there. Standards drop rapidly if you aren't constantly practicing. So obviously we hit the ball fast and hard like professionals are supposed to. Suddenly then a middle-aged man approaches us and tells us we need to stop hitting the ball so hard as it is scaring his kids and lectures us about how this is a place for calm leisure and we are ruining that. We explained to him we are semi-pros and need to keep playing, but he didn't care. His wife then came up and was a lot more gentle, explaining how it's making their kids uncomfortable. I suggest they move to different sun lounges so they are away from it. They both take offense to this and the dad goes and gets a member of staff who says this is a family-friendly environment and this isn't the place for hard play. We tell him we have absolutely not intention of stopping, that a table tennis ball is weightless and harmless and that there is no rule on anywhere that says we can't play like that. That member of staff then goes and brings a manager who agrees with me straight away and as I did suggests the family move to a different spot if they feel uncomfortable as there are plenty of free spaces. They reluctantly move saying they hope we are happy with ourselves, and I hear the dad say under his breath, F ing olds. Even afterwards, another person who watched whole thing came up to have a go at us, saying we were completely unreasonable. AITA? Right, I think I need to make clear because most people don't seem to know the difference. I am talking about table tennis, not ping pong. Ping pong balls are harder and could potentially hurt a little. Modern table tennis balls, unless smacked against someone's eyes from close range, cannot hurt even a child. My husband and I decided to bring our 2 kids to Disney World for 4 days now that they are old enough to appreciate it. My husband and I are not in the best of shape, so we decided to invite his sister and her husband along with us. We has to 2 separate rooms. We assumed we would spend our time in the parks together since it was after all a family vacation. The first day in the park we all did a few attractions together, but then when we went to bring the kids to meet some characters, she said she and her husband had other things in the park they wanted to do and would meet back up with us. We didn't see them until dinner after we watched fireworks together and then went back to the hotel. The second day we went to Epcot. They stuck around with us until the afternoon but then split up with us again to drink around the world. When we met up with them for dinner, they were clearly very tipsy in front of the kids. Very mature. When we got back to the hotel that night, I knocked on their door after the kids were asleep. I asked them if they were going to spend any time with the family on this vacation and told them running around an amusement park with kids all day is exhausting and we could use help. She claimed the time they were spending with us was enough, but they wanted to do their own thing too. She made a rude comment that she didn't take days off of work to be our babysitter. The next 2 days, we didn't speak to them at all. They did their own thing and we did ours with our kids. We didn't see them again until the flight home, which was awkward. I was so upset that they ruined the experience for our kids who were looking forward to spending time with their aunt that when I got home I wrote an email to our immediate family about the experience and at the end told them this was the reason we would be going low contact with Sil. I included Sil on email, sent it and went to sleep. Woke up to a ton of angry text from husband's family calling me ridiculous. I just assumed she would spend time with family on family vacation. Clearly she doesn't not value family. I, 17 meters, went to therapy when I was 11. My dad sat me down before sending me and told me he was worried about me and our family. That I didn't seem to be taking him remarrying and having half-siblings well, and that he was worried I would end up isolating myself in the future and that I would hurt my half-siblings when they realized I clearly favored my full-blood siblings over them. He asked me to give therapy a go to see if I could find a way to process mom not being there and move on to fully accept my half-siblings, and maybe even to see my stepmom as something more than his wife. I told him I'd go. First therapist was a bust. She spent the whole session talking about religion. Dad didn't send me back. Second therapist was different. He saw that therapy wasn't something I was totally comfortable with and he set me up with a therapy diary. He told me to call it my therapy notebook, my therapy scrapbook, or whatever made it feel the most comfortable for me. But he told me I could write stuff I could not express out loud. He also told me I could write stuff to bring up in future sessions. Early sessions I wrote a lot about missing my mom and the family we should have and how things would never be the same. After a while I also wrote down how I felt like my half-siblings could never mean as much to me as my full siblings because my full siblings and I shared our parents. And there was this more natural bond. I wrote how I did not think I would ever love my half-siblings, but I still thought they were part of my family and I hoped they would have good lives. There were some notes in it about how something happened and I missed mom and I wished my dad's wife and half-siblings could go so we could get mom back. That was maybe written 3 or 4 times. There was also a page where I talked about how I wanted a tattoo of the family I wanted us to be and how that wouldn't include my dad's wife or my half-siblings. I did 3 years of therapy and then ended it and threw the diary out. But Dad fished it out and decided to keep it. Then he read it. Then showed his wife. They left it where the kids found it and then read it as well. Now everything has gone crazy. My dad ended up confronting me and we argued because he told me I had written some very unfair things. I told him therapy can't always change how you feel, just how you act. He said he didn't send me to therapy to act the part. I told him he was getting off the point and he should never have read the diary, shared it around, etc. He said that he was my father and he had a right to read it. I told him that diary was none of his business and never should have been family reading. He told me that's a poor point to make when I wrote that my half-siblings were unlovable for simply having the wrong mother. We're not talking now, but he made it clear I was wrong here. AITA? My sister, 33F, and I, 31F, both have a 10-year-old each. My niece is Zoe and my son is Cole. Zoe and Cole are very close. Zoe's dad was my childhood best friend. He and my sister got married a couple of years before Zoe was born and he died when she was 4 weeks old. After that, my sister needed help, so I had Zoe with me during the day because I was home while my boyfriend at the time, and now husband, worked. So Cole and Zoe have grown up very close and are like siblings more than cousins. The name Ruby has been brought up a few times over the years. Cole told me Ruby was really mean to one of the kids in his friend group. Another time I heard from Cole and Zoe that Ruby got into trouble for pouring water over a bunch of kids' lunches, including theirs. Another time she made fun of a child who started wearing glasses and didn't get cool ones but more bulky ones because the parents couldn't afford something more stylish, and how she made her cry until she puked. There were other times her name was brought up as well. About 2 years ago, my sister mentioned she was dating someone and said she didn't know if it was serious or not. Then a year ago, she introduced him to everyone and his daughter, Ruby. My sister remarried 4 months after introducing them to everyone. Zoe and Cole were not happy. Ruby wasn't happy either, but wasn't saying anything to me about it directly. My sister was aware of the issues with Ruby and the fact there were some long-standing bad feelings there. She was not deterred by this, and instead she tried to pretend they were all new to each other and attempted to get Zoe and Cole to include Ruby in their play, and for them to be the three musketeers instead of 2 peas in a pod. Zoe told her mom it was never going to happen and that Ruby doesn't belong in the family. She got punished harshly for that. Cole told my sister he didn't like Ruby, and just because she was Ruby's stepmom now, it didn't change anything. My sister looked for me to back her up and tell him it changed everything, but I did not. She told me I should have had her back. A few days went by and then she told me we needed to talk and said I needed to support getting the kids to bond together and give Ruby a chance because she has no extended family and she's having a rough time in school. I asked my sister what she meant by that. She was reluctant to say. I asked if her husband was getting calls about how Ruby treats other kids. She didn't deny it. I told her she can't erase what Zoe and Cole think of Ruby and she needs to accept that. That Ruby has not proven to be a friend to them and they have more history with her being mean to others than they do with her being her stepdaughter. She said they're 10 and have so much more room to grow. I told her this is true, but you can't ask people to like someone who is mean to them and their friends. My sister said I am being too hard on Ruby and I'm in awe for defending Ruby being excluded. AITA? I, F32, have a younger sister F19 that has set of twins, F1. She got pregnant unexpectedly in high school and me and my parents have been very supportive of her. My husband owns a townhome complex that he rents out and we decided to let her live in one of them rent-free, since she's in college and we want her to focus on that. The only rule I had for her was to not allow her baby daddy, M23, move in. The guy is very much bad news and has a record, and every time he comes into my sister's life he sets her back, mentally and academically, and way more stuff. My husband drives past these homes every day and he always sees my sister's baby daddy's car in the driveway. At first I thought he was just visiting or babysitting. But my husband left work at 11 p.m. one night and he told me he seen the car still there. So my suspicion was he was staying there. I asked my sister first and she lied to me and said he's never there, which is a lie because his car is there daily. My sister went out town and this where I may be wrong, but I just needed to see for myself. So I used the master key and went into the house and it's pretty clear he's living there. Almost all of his stuff was there. And I was honestly furious because that was the only rule I gave her and we're losing money by helping her. I waited for her to come home and I confronted her about it, and of course it turned into a screaming match and she was mad I went into her home without permission. I told her she needs to start paying rent or I'll be evicting her. My mom is on her side and said it was unnecessary that I went into her home when she wasn't there and that I would be an asshole if I start demanding rent or evict her since I was once her age and dated horrible dudes too. So AITA. Edit. No, she does not have a lease for the townhouse since she's not paying anything there. If she were to start paying rent, she would be put on lease. The only thing that she pays for is cable and electricity. Everything else we pay for. The townhouse is under the ownership of husband's company. Second edit. The argument that some of you guys are making that she's a tenant and I broke rental agreement. I'm gonna repeat myself, she does not have a lease rental agreement. Technically, the place is still my husband's. She hasn't paid any sort rent of towards the house. She never paid any security deposit. She legally just a person that stays on our property. The most rights she would potentially have is squatter rights. Other than that, no. How do you guys think we have spare key to get in? If she was a traditional renter, we wouldn't have access to a spare like that. Again, my sister has no binding to the property, it's in my husband's name. He is the sole owner of that property. Her ownership to the house is equivalent to someone staying at a hotel for free. My BF, 26M, and his brother, 29M, had a very abusive relationship. His brother is an alcoholic and he had to pay for insurance as part of his job, and he died from drinking and falling down the stairs. Insurance paid out $260,000 split between him and his mom. Dad abandoned them. So $130,000 each. He said he didn't want the money and wanted to donate it to a charity. We've been together for 3 years and for 2 of that I've paid the majority of the expenses. I make approximately $90K a year and he makes $35K. He also has CC debt from not making enough to survive on and medical debt. I pay $2,000 of our $2,600 rent, most of the food cost, so he can pay off debt. I will admit I feel like he can do better, but with his bad upbringing and crappy family, I tried to be gentle about nagging him and he hasn't made any areas of improvement. I've worked hard to get new jobs and increase my salary and he hasn't, which hurts because I work a lot, 9 to 11 hours a day, while it seems like he gets to follow his passion. He teaches kids gymnastics, which doesn't pay well. I am an engineer and it feels like I am doing all the work keeping us afloat. So when he got the money, I said we should buy an apartment or use it to pay off his debt or save it or something. But he wants to donate it and I am really hurt because he doesn't care that by doing that I am forced to keep working harder and harder to support us. Especially because our rent got, legally, increased to $2,900, and so if we resign for the place, almost half off my money is going to rent. I tried to explain it that we need the money and he can donate a portion, but he needs to take care of our finances first like I've been doing for years. But he's made that I want to make use of his brother's blood money and accuses me of only seeing money when it's about doing the right thing. I feel like he only cares about doing the right thing while letting me do all the hard stuff like paying all the bills and taking care of real life. His brother died almost a year ago and he's for the insurance money 6 months ago and hasn't helped out at all. I've already talked about everything I've wrote above to him and he just ignores me. Last month I found out he donated everything to the American Cancer Society, and while it's a good cause, it doesn't help our finances. I was so angry that I'm left paying for everything so he can feel noble. I've told him he needs to start paying half the rent and food and I'm no longer subsidizing him. We have had many fights about this because I only buy enough food for myself and he gets home with nothing to eat and accuses me of being selfish. He says because I make more I should be paying what I do, but he got a lot of money, so why doesn't he pay for more things? Even his mother, who wasn't great to him, called and begged him to keep the money rather than donate it. Everyone in my life, my parents, my friends and my sister consider him a bum and openly ask me why I'm with him. I don't know if I can answer it positively anymore because I feel used. But AITA for insisting my BF pay half of everything now that he has donated all his brother's insurance money. My roommate, friend and I, both F23, moved in together in August of 2022. Our lease ends in August 2023. This is one of the main, although small, reasons that I'm considering not renewing our lease. One of many, at least. Throughout the week, not even every day, I ask my roommate, Jessica, to do something small for me. It's nothing big or significant, it's always small things. Some examples are, asterisk, can you grab my bag off the table for me? Asterisk, can you load the dishwasher? Asterisk, can you turn off the outside light? Asterisk, can you grab me a fork? Asterisk, oh, can you grab me a cup also? And I'm always told, only if you say please. I listened to it for a few months before I finally spoke up and told her that I didn't feel like I needed to say please for every single thing because I felt like it was implied and the things that I was asking her to do were always small things that I don't think are significant or necessarily warrant me saying, please. Her response was that, please, cannot be implied. I disagree because of the tone of voice, and that I need to say it every single time. I finally told her that if what I was asking her to do as a favor was so out of line for me to ask that I needed to say please and she wouldn't do it under any other circumstances, I'd literally just do it myself. I'll ask for small things that I could just do myself, but she may be closer or already doing something similar, or it may be that I'm asking her to do something because it's her mess, but she still demands say please. I've tried to tell her that if these things are really so crazy for me to ask that she refuses to do them without a formal please, then it seems like she views our friendship too conditionally. I don't need people to say please. I'll do things for them without them asking or without them saying please because I care about them and want to help them. I'll do things for her without saying please, but she doesn't view it the same. The constant, say please, seems like something a parent would do to teach their child manners. I'm a whole ass adult, I don't need to be taught manners. I'm a very polite person, I'm kind, and I say, please, and, thank you, in situations where it makes sense to say it, at work, when engaging in more formal conversation or with elders, or when talking to kids, etc. But typically not when I'm having a casual conversation with a friend. Am I the asshole for refusing to say, please, every damn time? I, 30F, work 4 10-hour days. After I get home, sometimes I just want to watch a show or movie of choice to unwind. My husband, 30 meters, is one of those guys who always has control of the TV, has it running all day, always turns it on once he gets up or gets home. It doesn't matter where we are, home, hotel, FILs, he's even been known to stream sports while at stores and in the car. This constant consumption of TV has been grating on me because we have one TV, in the living room. I don't want one on the bedroom BC, it makes it hard to sleep see above and guess as to why. Hubby has asked why is it that if I watch a show, I watch it on my iPad in the bedroom. We had a convo the other night about how his interests content feel more important than mine because they always are on and I don't feel like I get space to sit and watch a show. Last night I snapped at him. I get home, turn on a movie on my iPad and put in my earbuds since he already had the TV on with what he wanted to watch. He insisted that I watch my movie on the TV instead of the iPad in the other room, in an attempt to respect my concern above. He said he was watching an event for work, so I offered to leave the TV to him so he can watch his work thing. He insisted otherwise. So I took him at his word and put my movie on. He then puts on one game on his computer and another one on his phone, while I'm trying to watch the movie. This is in the same room as the TV and he was 3 feet away from me. I went to the bedroom after my movie was done pissed off. When he checked in with me what was wrong, I snapped at him BC why should I have bothered watching a movie if he was going to proceed to put on 2 screens 3 feet away. He said he was trying to be respectful of me wanting space to watch a show but it feels really disrespectful because he regained that space immediately. AITA for snapping at him? Edit for clarity. We had a conversation the night before last about how he takes over the TV and most of the content in the house, including sharing social media, and how I feel like I don't have any space for what I want to consume and it's frustrating that I don't get that space to decompress and unwind unless I go to a space alone. That his stuff takes precedence over mine. So this situation, frustration and my pissed off response was 24 hours after that initial conversation. For context, me and Amy have been friends since elementary school. We're no longer that close, but we still keep in touch, and she actually introduced me to my fiancé in college. So, I asked her to be a bridesmaid. The first time we meet, Amy brings Spud, her really cute pug. Unfortunately, I am really allergic to dogs. I mention this to her. She says that he has to accompany her because he's her emotional support dog. I'm not very knowledgeable on support animals, but I respect their role, so I try to accept it, but by the end of the day I'm a mess. Just disgusting, and I feel awful. I pull Amy aside and ask if there's any way she can leave Spud at home for the next meeting. She becomes upset, stating that for health reasons he has to accompany her, and I back down. After 2 more meetings, though, I can't do it because I feel too sick. I pull her aside again and tell her that I just can't be in the same room as Spud. She mentions she already bought him a little suit for the wedding, and I inform her there's just no way he can come. My ceremony is in a tiny church and he and I will inevitably be in close proximity. This kicks off a big discussion about the importance of support animals and mental health. I completely agree that mental health is significant and understand that Spud is helpful to her, but in the context of my wedding I just can't be around a dog. She asks if she had a medical condition, like seizures or diabetes, and needed Spud to help her survive if I would kick him out. I admitted I would have to think about it. She stated this is an example of ableism and that his role is just as important. I then ask if he can come to the wedding, but stay outside with her partner, or something, for the ceremony, and then join her for the reception, which is outside. She asks alternatively if I can just take an antihistamine for the ceremony. I let her know they don't work for me completely and I get really groggy, so I'd rather not. For another event I'd consider it, but for my own wedding I just don't want to make that kind of compromise. I have a few more exchanges with her and neither of us is budging. I then tell her that if she insists on bringing Spud to the ceremony, I'm going to ask her not to attend. She's upset and tells the rest of the wedding party, whose opinions are split. Another bridesmaid is now refusing to go unless I re-invite Spud. I have still refused. So, now both Amy and this bridesmaid have Venmo'd me for the cost of their dresses and Spud's suit. I paid them. But they are still talking to more guests at the wedding about it and I just feel exhausted. I'm torn between annoyed at the impact this is having on my own wedding, but also the concern that I have made a cruel decision. I'm wondering if the right thing to do was to suck it up and let him come. AITA? Edit. ****. A lot of people are asking why I paid for the clothes. A combination of feeling guilty, but also I just thought it would fix the drama. It didn't, lol, but I do think it helped a little. I also think I'm in a better place financially, so it wasn't a big deal. Just easier. Sorry, that seems kinda triggering for people. I, 21, am heavily pregnant with twins and have a 2-year-old son. My husband, 27, insisted that we have his mom move in with us due to her losing her husband, 6 months prior, and older age. I from the get-go was uncomfortable with my mother-in-law moving in because she is extremely nitpicking and always finds something wrong with the way I do things. I'm from another culture than her and grew up in the West while she is South Asian. I do my best to respect her culture, but she always mocks mine and how I grew up. Ever since she moved in with me, she's been ordering me around like I am her slave, and since she is my husband's mother, I've been doing my best to please her, but no matter what I do, I can't. She finds some kind of fault with everything I do. It gotten so stressful for me that it ends up leaving me in tears. This one time she asked me to cook this dish from her homeland which I never ate before, but she refused to help me prepare it, so the night before I spend all night trying to research it, only for her to take one bite and tell me it's awful and throw her whole plate out. With cleaning, she's always watching me, telling me that I'm not cleaning right and that she doesn't understand how her son could marry someone who doesn't even know how to be a wife. I just feel like she's really disrespectful, and when I try to ask her to treat me better, she'll go rant to my husband claiming I was the one being disrespectful to her. She constantly orders me around, asking me to go to the store for her, clean up after her, or cook for her, only to say I did it horribly. I'm pregnant and exhausted and can no longer cope with this anymore, so I told my mother-in-law that enough is enough and that I'm no longer doing anything for her until she learns to treat me with respect, and whether she likes it or not, I'm the mother of her grandson and unborn granddaughters, which makes me family. She started insulting me and told me that women out here don't know how to respect their elders, and she's disgusted her son choose me. She ended up calling my husband, which of course my husband heard her side of the story and sympathized with his mom without even listening to me. He's upset and thinks I should be putting more effort in mending the relationship with his mom, especially because she is still grieving. But the thing is, I brought this to my husband's attention enough times and all he did was downplay his mom's actions and claim that she's warm up to me soon enough, which she hasn't. Am I the asshole for telling my mother-in-law that I'm done doing anything for her? This is a tough take no matter how you spin it, but I'm not entirely convinced I'm in the wrong. Now, my wife is a cat person, I'm a dog person. She has 3 cats and I have a dog. I interact with her cats and think they're pretty cool, though it's taken them a while to warm up to me, whereas she truly just doesn't like my dog for reasons that are justified. I simply have a higher patience and tolerance level, whereas my wife expects perfect listening skills, which is unrealistic. Though I'm willing to admit she has never asked me to rehome her outside of one single occurrence back a while ago, which was said out of frustration. Now on to the issue. My wife is currently pregnant with our 4th and last. She is a SOM, homeschools our kids, grows our own food and generally keeps the house clean. This isn't due to me asking or expecting it from her, but she just generally enjoys it. She only just became a SOM when COVID hit and honestly, life has been fantastic. Less stress, she even says the same. But again, she's currently pregnant. She can no longer clean the cat box. The kids, triplets, are too young to clean the cat box. It gets stinky quick and gives her migraines. Because of my long hours and generally being completely exhausted when I get home, I usually forget to clean it myself. I know that's a me problem, but given that it is a safety issue for my wife, I think rehoming them, at least until end of pregnancy, is the best option, so I suggested it to her. She's 20 weeks, so it wouldn't be a god-awful length of time to rehome them before she got them back anyhow. She lost it, however. She told me that I'm selfish in expecting her to rehome her cats because I don't want to pick up one chore around the house. That truly isn't the case though. I truly forget because of how exhausted I am when I get home. She then started that it would be a cold day in hell that she rehomes her cats when I get to keep a dog that no one wants but me. I will admit that the kids have zero interest in the dog. Like, none whatsoever. But they all love the cats, so maybe I am in the wrong. However, I was truly thinking of it from a safety aspect of things and she just seems to think I'm being selfish. AITA? 33 meters, am traveling and had just found my seat on a long flight. 15 hours or so. I was in an aisle seat and a stranger about my age approached me. He closed the overhead bin above me. The bin had a few bags in it, but it still had room for one more. He said to me, "Tell people that this one is full, okay?" I just shrugged. He went back to his seat, which was a few rows ahead of me, and started rummaging around in his carry-on to get out his pillow, book, headphones, etc. His row was the first in the economy cabin, so it was in that weird spot by the emergency door and the bathrooms and didn't have an overhead bin of its own or even a seat in front of it to store a bag. The flight continued to board, and the overhead bins closed one by one. Eventually, the woman who had the aisle seat across from me showed up and started looking for overhead space. Most bins were closed by then, so she decided to start looking inside some. The guy who closed the bin noticed this behavior and was watching her like a hawk, but he couldn't get to his false bin because the line was backed up by this woman. When she started reaching for his false bin, he started yelling, "No! No! That one is full. It's full." But the woman ignored him. So he looked at me and screamed, "Tell her. Tell her it's full." But by that point she had opened the bin and discovered that it was, in reality, not full. He screamed, "You were supposed to tell her it was full." Everyone in the vicinity was looking at me, so I shrugged again and said, "You can't call dibs." The man was furious. I ruined his whole flight. He had to find bin space at the back of the cabin, and, since he didn't have a seat in front of him, that meant he had to wait for the entire flight to be empty to get his bag. I made accidental eye contact with him a few times while waiting in line for the bathroom and could tell he was not letting anything go. After the flight, I was waiting at the baggage carousel with my boss and telling him the bin story. Well, the guy happened to walk by at that moment and yelled something at me. I told my boss, I think he called me, the dibs guy. He turned around and said, "No. I called you the dibs dick." So, Reddit, am I the dibs guy or the dibs dick?